It's 2 minutes gone past the hour of 9 o'clock in the studios of Classic. That's Classic 105.5 and 105.9 on the FM band. A wonderful and warm good morning. Welcome back to those of you that's in television. As GBN's Channel 7, Channel 11, and those of you that's on Channel 20 on cable. Indeed, it's a glorious Wednesday morning. It's the 29th day of the month of October. And indeed, I want to say thanks for being part of this morning's conversation. Thank you also for those that's joining us via our social media platform, whether it's via Facebook or via YouTube. I'm Joseph Cadore, and I want to say thanks for keeping you company this morning. Joining me in studio this morning, representing the New National Party, is the man Oliver Joseph, former minister and member of the New National Party. Mr. Joseph, good morning and welcome to The Point.
Good morning to you and all your viewers and listeners. It's a pleasure to be back. Must say that I enjoyed your Christmas music coming down. You reminded me that Christmas is very soon.
It is in fact 56 days away. So I'm actually counting.
Oh, you're actually counting, yes.
I'm actually counting. But I always say Christmas is a spirit, and certainly something we have to help people to usher in the spirit of the season. Yeah, so by the time the date comes, because you would agree, most times by the time the 25th comes, people thinking about something else anyway. So,
it's a season that Christians really look forward to,
yes,
and celebrate the birth of Christ, although it has been commercialized over the years.
It has been. Although there are those who would say that it has always been that way, though.
It has been commercialized, but I find more emphasis was placed on the Christ child, the celebration of the birth.
Now it's all about making some quick bucks.
Yes, that's right.
Some quick bucks. But quick bucks is all, when it comes to making quick bucks, everybody wants to do that, and then they will give different reasons, be it economic reasons, whatever the reasons might be. But Mr. Oliver, you here, and this morning you said what you wanted, we'll be touching on is the whole conversation of pension. And it is one of those dinner table conversation, rum shop conversation, bus terminus conversation. Wherever you go, anything that directly affects and impact the livelihood of the populace, it becomes a conversation. And certainly for the NNP, certainly for you as an individual, you have some concerns, and what you said, there are persons that have been asking questions regarding the whole question of pension reform.
Yeah, sure. It is a very topical issue, and I get calls all the time from especially government employees, from teachers, police, civil servants. And before I go into the issues, let me just give a brief background to set the context for the discussion. So, we are a British colony. In 1958, the British government passed the Pension Act for its employees, that's government employees.
Right.
At that time, there were just about 200 and something employees. In 58, at that time you were not even born yet, so a small group of public servants. And the public service started growing as the population grew.
Right.
So it had that growth. And so from 1958, if you're appointed, and that point need to be made, to qualify for the pension in law, you had to be appointed by the Public Service Commission. Mm-hmm. And therefore you were considered as an established worker because you're appointed.
Correct.
So it means that if you were not appointed, you were considered unestablished. And if you're unestablished, you're not entitled to the pension.
Okay.
That right. So that went on for years, and some trade unions like TAU and others negotiated pension arrangement in the bargaining unit for the workers. Right. Because they were not entitled to the government pension like other workers. But you had different pension acts. Some people think the government has one pension act for its workers. No, you had, if you look back, you had the School Teachers Pension Act, the Civil Service Pension Act, the Police Pension Act, the Prison Officers Pension Act, because prison and police, to qualify, their qualifying year is 20.
Right.
20, whereas in the teaching and the civil service, it is 26 and 2/3.
Okay.
In fact, it was 33 and 1/3. Eh? Yes, when the British set it up in 58, you had to serve for 33 and 1/3 years. You know, do you know that some jurisdictions still have 33 and 1/3? Yes. We moved, and I remember it clearly because I was on the executive of the Public Workers Union when we approached government to reduce it to 26 and 2/3. But we were following the St. Lucia model. St. Lucia had changed it to 26 and to bring it down, to 26 and 2/3. So we used that as a basis and approach government and said, well, we think you should, we will like 26 and 2/3, and it came down.
Right.
So, but it remains still only for established. We are saying to the government at the time, well, you have two officers working side by side. One will get pension, the other one would not get. On the simple basis that one was appointed by the Public Service Commission and the other not. Yes, and you work 26 years. So let us address that.
Okay.
The NNP did address it to a limited extent by saying, listen, you will get an ex gratia payment, it was called a special pension. So you would not get a gratuity, a lump sum, but you will get a pension. And the pension you will receive was higher than if you got the regular public service pension and the gratuity. Because really what you're calling a gratuity is a reduction on your pension entitlement, you know. Yes, you get this money for 12 and a half years, and then after 12 and a half years, your pension then increases to 2/3, which you really would have gotten initially. So it's not really or this in the strict sense, but not to confuse anyone. You get a gratuity and you get a pension, and that's how we know it. So we leave it like that. Now, remember, the government, it's a non-contributory plan. You do not have to pay anything towards it.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, you have to get the pension. So in 1983, the PRG, that was during the reign of the PRG now, decided, listen, this non-contributory plan is unsustainable because there is no pool of money that you have set aside. You have to budget for it like how you budget for everything else to pay the pension. So why not introduce a pension scheme, a social security scheme, where workers will contribute, government will contribute, and at the end of when you qualify, when you reach age 60, then NIS pay you.
Right.
So government will not have to pay you. So that came in 83. But for the people who were there, they could not disqualify them from the pension entitlement. So these people got two.
And it's important to establish that pension has always been enshrined in the Constitution.
In the Constitution, yes.
So there's no walking around it.
Right. So it's there in the Constitution that you're entitled. Now, how the PRG interpret that entitlement is that once your workers at the end of their working life and retirement age received a pension, then you have not violated the Constitution. Because you said as a worker with government, you are entitled to a pension. So they passed the Pension Disqualification Act to disqualify workers coming after April 83 from the non-contributory pension plan which government pays automatically.
Right.
And introduce now in its place the National Insurance Scheme.
Okay.
That will take over the payment of pension. So it will not be an obligation of the government. So this law, however, was not gazetted until 85. You know, in 83 there were a lot of chaos in Grenada. And therefore, when it was challenged in court, the court held that the law only took effect in February of 85. So if you came to work between 83, when the Pension Disqualification Act was passed, and 85, they were saying you're entitled because there was no law in effect because he was not gazetted.
Right.
Right. So you had that change, and therefore the workers who left and did not get the pension within that period, it was 56 of them. The NNP government had to pay out to these workers $7 million in retroactive pension.
Okay.
So the NNP paid the pension, and the NNP continued to pay pension to the workers that were entitled to the pension as per the Constitution and the 1958 law. Then negotiations were held with the union to say, well, let us look for a different formula to come up on how to compensate workers. And there was an agreement that there will be a top-up from what you get in NIS. The government will top it up. And then the union decided, no, this is a constitutional matter. Let us go to court. So they went to court.
But let me ask you, it wasn't a case of the union saying it's a constitutional matter, or was that in fact the case?
Well, you had
because it's always the issue of pension as it stood from 1958 up until 83 when the Constitution was suspended. It remained an issue enshrined in the Constitution, and it would mean therefore any change to be made should have been made, and it could only have been made by the people.
Well, as you know, in law, you have different interpretation. And sometimes, some lawyer friends tell me, sometimes they're surprised at how a judge rule or a magistrate, because they had a completely different view of the law, and that's why you have different courts, So you could go to the magistrate court with a matter, a serious matter, the High Court, the OECS Appeal Court, and then to the Privy Council. And sometimes every stage you get a different ruling on the same matter, Yes, on the same matter, you get different rulings. So it's never very clear. So, as I said to you, the PRG, in passing the Pension Disqualification Act, that was to disqualify you from receiving this non-contributory pension, said, we have not violated your rights because the Constitution guaranteed you a pension, and we are just moving the pension to the NS.
But that, so let me, because there's always going to be the argument, and I don't want us to leave it too much in. But that, what, if you ask me, up until now, from 1950 to now, we've been through independence, and here we are. What, in fact, is the prevailing interpretation?
No, well, I'll give you the court ruling. That's what I'm coming to. That's why I'm taking it by stages. Starting 58, explain 83, explain 85, right. And I'm coming out to the ruling. So the matter went to court. And in 2022 March, the court handed down a ruling that said the Pension Disqualification Act, as proclaimed by the People's Revolutionary Government, is unconstitutional since it violated the workers' constitutional right to a pension, and that the national insurance could not replace that right, could not replace the pension.
Right.
And so here we are now, faced with a judgment that says you must return to the case where you had before 85, where the non-contributory plan had to continue. Once you're appointed by the Public Service Commission as an established worker, and you make 26 and 2/3 years, or in the case of the police, 20, you are entitled. So there was a big backlog now of workers that during that period of time, from 85 to 2022, did not receive anything because the prevailing position at the time was that you're getting NS. So that was a major ruling. The New National Party, however, decided not to appeal the ruling, because I told you could appeal, and maybe if you went to the Privy Council, you might have gotten a different ruling. But they said, no, we would not appeal. The ruling is that the workers are entitled to a pension and will be paid. Right? And that then became a major political issue in the campaign. In fact, I read one survey that said that was the determining factor in the election, the last election, that, yes, when you ask people about what was the main issue, they said payment of pension, right? Was their issue. That is what they would like to see. And in fact, it went on to say that the NNP lost the election on that basis, on that ground, because the electorate who were entitled to pension, especially the retroactive payment, decided that they will vote for the NDC in order to receive the pension. Not that NNP was not going to pay the pension, because we said we were going to pay it. But they think, well, if we give a new party the chance, perhaps we'd be in a better position to receive it, and therefore let's give them the chance. So now, in the campaign, the NDC promised that they will pay the pension as soon as they get into office. Even if they have to take a loan, they will pay the pension. They came out. Our position was we will pay, but we are doing it in a phased basis based on the advice given to us by the World Bank, who did a study. Now, people were accusing us of coming up with different figures. I don't know if you follow it, but they were saying, that's why I tell you pension was such a topical issue.
But is it the case that people were, but the reality of it is that it was quite a contentious issue.
It was.
You kept hearing varying arguments from different schools of thought.
Right. It was.
So it was a legitimate open
Oh yeah, sure.
Persons had legitimate concerns.
Yes, and rightly so. Because that's, money, remember, I received my pension, my gratuity, having worked for 30 years. And then the other persons who are appointed now, I'm not talking about unestablished, they were appointed just like me, but they were not entitled to anything.
And you have to agree, part of that contention was that there were varied schools of thought, even within the government at the time, regarding our ability to pay. And there were arguments that would suggest that if we went ahead and we paid this in a lump sum, that there were going to be other financial implications, serious financial implications for the country.
All right.
But we're not getting into that because that has come and gone.
No, it hasn't come and gone. I'll explain, because they're taking it to that stage based on what you just said. So, you had the government saying, yes, we will pay. Now, there are various estimates. We had a study done. We had a committee set up. Mm-hmm. And that's a point a lot of people miss when we put out the numbers. So, the present administration said they paid out 75 million. So they were accusing us of not giving the real figures because we said it was a lot more. No,
but was that in fact the case? So let me ask now, because we be vacillating on those figures up until now. What if you ask me unequivocally, Mr. Joseph? What is the figure? Is it the figure that the NDC articulated, or is it up until now we're still arguing as to what the figure was?
No, the people who are arguing do not understand the basis of the calculation. There's no vacillation. There's no wrong figures there. The assumptions you make in a model will determine the outcome. So, listen, so you did all the scenarios. You said, okay, we know the amount of people are retired, so we know the amount of persons that had to be paid retroactively. We said now that pension is restored, you have over 2,200 people that qualify immediately because they already made 26 years. So we calculate it and say, if they come forward and say we want to go because we're entitled to pension now, it will cost that amount, X amount, and that is how we come up. We did a lot of modeling,
Okay.
So bear in mind where we are. So we are talking about a situation where these people are not entitled.
No, right. That is understood.
But no, the courts say you're entitled.
Correct.
So what happened if the over 2,000 people currently in the public service come forward and say, well, I'm not entitled? What will happen? Right? We did the costing. So when we put out the numbers, it was for different modeling, different scenarios. The 75 million recall was only for the people who left. But people who left, and were entitled. That's where the 75 million came. So we had to look at everything and say, okay, we must be clear. And when the government said they paid 500 and something people, that was those who in the past,
Okay, so and I'm getting the sense that we're probably going to continue bouncing back and forth.
No, we will move on that. I just wanted to make that clear.
Right.
That is how the different figures came up.
Okay.
There was no guess.
Okay.
We had it done based on various scenarios.
So it was various models.
Various models. Exactly. That is as simple and as straightforward as that.
Okay.
So
But can we see if it's possible? Because it's only an hour that we have, and we're already at 25 minutes. Can we now advance? I would want first to advance the conversation.
Right.
Payments were made. Persons got their pension payments. There has been the conversation regarding pension reform.
Right.
How do we move forward?
Yes.
We've vacillated, we've argued back and forth, we've been through the various models that was used. And I guess the experts would always argue which model was most appropriate. How do we advance the conversation now? Pension reform as it is. Going forward, I think that is a timely conversation.
Right. Yes. Sure. No, but you see, the context is important. So all that background to lead us right now to pension reform. Mm-hmm. So, first of all, the present administration, while campaigning to win the votes of the electorate, promised that they would.
Both parties are
not promise the pension. I say both of us promised to pay it.
Well, I say
I said promise to make everyone permanent.
No,
that's the point I'm making.
I was just saying the way you said it.
Oh no, the promise here is not for the pension.
When
both sides pay, yes, both sides, of course.
When both parties are campaigning, they're campaigning to win votes.
Yeah, but you have to be careful with what you promise. Let me tell you why. So listen. So the NDC said, we will make everybody permanent. Now, everybody they're talking about, let me give you the figures. Mm-hmm. 3,672 workers we're talking about that were not permanent, were not appointed by the Public Service Commission. And they said, we will make these people permanent because contract work is illegal. And the next MP said, we do not need to have a parallel public service. So we put everybody in the establishment. I remember in the whole of Grenada, I remember the opposition leaders standing up in Parliament and saying, go ahead, you could make everybody permanent and see what will happen to the fiscal situation. You think we're wicked, NMP wicked. NMP people have people on contract. And NMP people, you're giving them all sort of things, putting them in agency. Go ahead, let me see you do it. So the government says, we will make you permanent. So all the Imanis, all the temporary workers, all those on contract, they happy? Because when look at the party that come in and say, I gave a cousin of mine a leave before election, and he told me he's voting for NDC. I say, why? He said, well, 5 years now on a temporary. NDC going to make us permanent. I say, all right. I gave him a leave last week. I say, Michael, what? You say, why? You know, I ain't permanent yet. I say, but I told you. If I told you we had a program we were working on to arrive there, but you were so anxious to get your permanent, you and others, the 3,000 who decided that they want the permanent now. So we come now to pension reform. The government comes into office and says, well, we cannot make everybody permanent now. Complete turnaround. If we make everybody permanent, it will be unsustainable. The government cannot sustain it because it's a non-contributory plan. We have no source of money that's put aside for pension payment. You have to just budget, put it as part of the budget. And therefore, we'll have to come up with a new pension plan. We'll have to reform what is there and come up with a new pension plan. The first date proposed was the 1st of June this year. They did not make it. That did not happen.
Before we get to that, that reformation plan that was being considered, is the NNP, what's your position on it? Do you agree? Do you support it, or do you?
Right.
Or what are you concerned? Do you have any concerns with it?
Yes, I will.
So what are they?
Right. So let me explain it, but because people must understand what it is that they, and then we will explain our concern. Right. So the new pension plan was proposed in June. It's the new date was 1st of October, like this month. So I'm not sure if it commenced on the 1st of October. The proposal is for a contributory scheme at a rate of 3% to be paid by workers earning less than 5,200. 5,200 is the ceiling for NIS payment, and 6% if for workers earning above the NIS ceiling, they earning above 5,200. So they will contribute 3% and the government will match it. That is the current proposal. So at the moment, workers are paying 5.5% as the contribution to NS. Government pays 6.5 because it's now 12 and it's going to continue to increase until it reaches 16% by 2031. So so in this new arrangement, the worker now will be paying towards two pensions. The new one, which government introducing, and to NS. So they will be paying, it's 5.5, but it will go to 6 next year and then continue to increase. And pay the 3%, they're paying two streams for pension. And the government says it is compulsory. You don't have an option. Our first question is, so what will happen to the people who you made in the unestablished position that have 10 years, 15 years? Because you know we're introducing it from the first. Would you pay all the contribution up to that point, put credit it to them? That's the first answer we need for the people who are there. The second concern that we have is the consultation. We have heard from the union, the Public Workers Union in particular, saying that there has been no consultation with the union and it's affecting their workers. And our concern is you must have consultation with the union representing the workers.
So let me make sure we understand, because we're due for a break in just a few minutes. So you're saying that the union has articulated that government has had no consultation with them regarding the whole question of pension reform?
Yes, that's right. That is what I have heard them say. It's in public. They said it in public.
That's an official
position. Yes.
By
the union, the president, Mr. Brian Grimes, have come out publicly on more than one platform. He was on the Bob Report saying that. He was on an interview locally saying that. The government response was, well, we invited the Trade Union Council to send a representative to be part of the committee, and they refused to send one. He said, well, no, the Trade Union Council represents all the unions. The unions that are directly affected are the workers, the civil service, and the teachers.
So what would the opposition, and I'm asking because there is really an administration and the opposition, what is the administration position as of now regarding pension? What would you like to see happen?
Before implementation, okay, first of all, our position, there should be no rush. We think this matter is rushed too quickly, right? We do not understand the rush to move. Well, first of all, as I said, it was June. Then now you see October. Take your time, involve the trade union, have discussion explaining to the workers what this new pension arrangement is about, how it will be beneficial to them. Open it out for wider public consultation.
Do you see the conversation as it stands now? While you have concerns, do you see what are some of the benefits? Are there benefits that there is for the working class people that you can highlight?
Well, it's not a straightforward issue about whether there are benefit because they'll cost. You have cost implications too, Because if you tell me no, I have to pay towards two pensions,
No, but those
and it's compulsory.
No, fine. Those are the concerns.
And I look at the cost and the benefit.
Right. So we're looking at it on both sides.
So you ask me about benefit, and I'm saying that there is cost and there is benefit. We're looking at the cost first to the workers because it's going to be compulsory. So you have two NIS is compulsory. Right. Then you bring the next one, and so the workers' disposable income will be affected because they have to pay. We said the benefit is that the workers who are not entitled to receive a pension will get one based on, first of all, they will be contributing towards one. The government will be contributing, and the details of which we do not have yet because we have not seen the document. It's my understanding that after 5 years, if you want to go, there are certain amount you could get, and on a certain amount of years you serve, you will benefit. So if you are paying towards a plan, obviously, you will have to benefit. That's why you're paying towards it. So we are saying not to rush it.
What timeline do you propose?
Well, no, not a timeline, not to rush it. Get involved. If it takes you next year, or why not? Okay, for example, most time the fiscal year starts on January the 1st. What's wrong with starting it on January the 1st?
No, I'm not saying this one. Just ask.
Yes, no, we're saying if you take your time, you could start it on 1st of January.
And I'm asking you, in terms of the whole process for reform, what timeline do you think is reasonable?
Yes, so we are saying you can use the rest of the year, very simply, for consultation, explain the full effects of the plan, meet with the trade union, meet with the workers, meet with other, and you can have a commencement date of the 1st of January next year. We think that's a reasonable time.
But that's just literally 2 months away.
Yes, but you want to start it this month, October,
So you don't think, so your concern is a lack of consultation?
Yes.
Okay, the lack of consultation. Let's hold that conversation right there. 24 minutes onto the hour in the morning time. We'll take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. Okay, I don't know, for some reason, Master Control seem to have left us on our own. Reminding you on the inside, the numbers to reach us, 435-2041. And certainly you can also reach us we're taking comments via the Facebook platform and via WhatsApp. WhatsApp 435-2041. And certainly you can feel free, we can feel free to post your comments via the WhatsApp platform. Right. We are here, Mr. Joseph, and it's important that while we have the conversation, but let's entertain this caller. Good morning, caller. You're alive.
Good morning to you, sir, and good morning to Mr. Joseph.
Good morning, sir.
Mr. Joseph. I think I'm learning a lot from you there now. I am satisfied that I'm getting some learning. But a lot of it should have come before the election because I don't think some of the things were thoroughly explained to people, right? As one, for instance, when the NDC said they will pay by all means, Dr. Mitchell came and said that he's going to pay to those who are going home in the end of the year, and the others he will pay as funds become available. And I think that word would have frightened some people. So explanation was not thoroughly there. But I'm with you all the way now with what you're saying, because you're giving a very good synopsis of the whole thing. What I think is happening there now is that lots of people who voted at the time was not clear. All they're concerned about is that the government say that the opposition at the time say once they come in power, they will pay. And you see how things can happen. That was a sort of trap to some extent. But I am hoping, and with all of that, I'm hoping that goodwill continue because it is in the interest of the people, and we can't run the country without the civil servant. So I am hoping that they reach a solution. But yes, for two parties, for the civil servant now to have to pay to two pension scheme, it's sort of hard. But all of us want money when the time comes. So I'm hoping that good sense prevails because everybody wants money when the time comes for money. When people work, they expect to be given a pension. That is a livelihood. That is how people think. So it is important for people to be properly guided. So I agree with you that a little more consultation is needed so that we could be properly guided as to the way forward.
Thank you, caller.
Yeah, yes, caller, you're correct. What happened is, I agree with the caller. You know, when you're campaigning, you don't go into details. You don't see the budget. When the government said that they will make everybody permanent, I thought the government knew it was 3,672 people they're talking about, you know.
But it's interesting.
To put them on the roll.
It's interesting, and it's interesting that you're saying that when you campaign and you don't give specifics. Is that a culture across the board? Is that an indictment and the
people, the people, not the political parties. The people must ask questions. If I come to you and I said, as soon as I come, I'll make everybody permanent. Ask me how are you going to do that? Where the money is going to come from? But the people do not question politicians enough when they make statement, and that is what is lacking in our society. We need to question all politicians, all from both sides, more about promises that they make. Because look, the government say no. You know what the Prime Minister said? If he put all these people on the payroll, make them permanent in a non-contributory plan, the country will go bankrupt.
But that's a conversation, and while I agree with the point that you're making, but that culture is a culture that falls on both sides of
both
the court.
Sides, yes. But I say politicians.
And I wonder because politicians, when you ask questions, when you go back to, for example, as recent as COVID, and it's fresh in everybody's mind, when you ask questions, sometimes you get the pushback from politicians. It's as though there is then there seems to be this lack of transparency. So the question is going to be asked now, given that you have highlighted that, why now should persons believe, given that politicians always tend to be resistant, why should they not believe that your position now that you're articulating is the right one?
No, people today must determine that. The electorate
and
must determine.
Why should they determine that? Based on what?
Based on the information that I'm providing. I'm saying that the government has promised to make everybody permanent, it will bring the public service to 7,734. Recall, when you collect your revenue and you allocate it, in your budget every year, budget allocation. When we came in 2013, 70% of government's entire revenue was going to be salaries, wages, and pension. 70%. In 2013, when I came in for the first time, and we look at the figures.
Hold that thought for me right there. Let's engage the public. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Hi, good morning to you, Joe, and good morning to my dear friends. Mr. Joseph. I know that I agree with you on all the whole matter of the consultation, which to me is reasonable and fair, and I agree with you that there is not a need for rush. But I would also ask that of all the transformational things that the NDC promised to bring about, pension payment was not one of them. Neither was pension reform. That's an old horse that was being, ridden and beat about for over a decade. And there were many things on the table about pension reform. What I would like you to tell me, my dear friend and brother, how vastly different, how novel is the new proposal compared to what was the later stages of development of the previous discussions that were held with your government, headed by, I think it was Mrs. Beryl Isaac and whoever it is, for years and years and years. How different are the two? Is it really transformational, or is it just incremental difference, or is it more or less the same thing? Can you tell us how different they are? I really would love to know that. It's for education.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Now it is vastly different. Now this new, so we're talking about the new proposal from the government that workers will be asked to make a mandatory contribution of towards the pension. What we were looking at was considering what NIS paid. At the moment, you can get up to 60% of your last income if it's less than 5,200, because that's the ceiling. Well, it was 5,000. Just recently moved up to 5,200. And we are going to give a top-up to it.
How much?
To bring it was up.
Was it agreed?
Yes, it was. You could get up to take you up to a certain point. You could get as high as 20% top up.
Could get.
Yes, because it varies. It depends on the amount of money you will be entitled from NIS. Because remember, if somebody tell you they're getting 50% of the last salary from NIS, they correct, And if a next person tell you they not getting 50% of the salary, they also correct because NIS has a cap.
No, I was just trying to...
Right, so the cap, they have a cap.
What I needed clarity
so if
on was when you said you could get up to 20%.
Well, yes, because if you said you need 60%, right? And you're getting 50 from NS, then you only get government to put 10. But if it was getting 40, then the government put 20.
It still means even that there's still no guarantee on it, though.
Yeah, because you want to reach 60, but you are at different levels. So if you're 30 and the government wants you to reach 60, then the government will put 30.
We have a caller. We have a caller that's on the line. Good morning, caller. You're alive.
Yeah, good morning to your guest, and good morning to you, Joseph, Mr. Cadore. My question to Mr. Joseph, he spoke of the vast difference between this administration's proposal and his government's, the former administration proposal, the government that he was a part of, and he referenced top-up, and earlier in his statement, he spoke about the burden for the worker. My question is, that same top-up from NIS, would the worker at the time be putting in anything, contributing anything? Because he speaks of as though it was something that the government was just going to give through NIS, and the worker don't have to pay anything extra, nothing has to come out from the salary. That's the first thing. That's the kind of idea he gives when he speaks like that about top up and they're going to put 20 more and 20 more percent or whatever it is. But secondly, my point is the NNP administration had workers coming into the public service knowingly on a contract and retiring without a pension. And that's a fact. These 3,672 workers that he talked about, the majority of these people were hired under the 340 vote, and in some cases they were just brought in without any instrument at all within the public service. My thing is, you have these workers within the service going home, retiring without a pension. This government is actually proposing a new pension to help these people so that they would go home with something. I thought that Mr. Joseph would be happy for these people and say, hey, boy, these people will be going home not into poverty, but going home with a pension on a monthly basis. But this gentleman, my good friend, is actually there defending something that should not be defended. The NNP was sending these people home back into poverty when they retire. If a person retires now, Joseph Cadore, who is on contract, they're going home with no pension at all. But thank you very much.
Mr. Joseph, your response?
All governments.
You care to respond?
All governments since 85. Workers came into the service under different conditions. Unestablished, contract workers. We had the Imani, they were trainees to provide the jobs, because the problem in Grenada society is we do not have a robust public service, private sector that will provide the jobs. So everybody turning to government for a job, because that's the nature of our society. But if you increase the public service, then it becomes a situation where the majority of your allocation at budget time will go towards just paying wages, salaries, and pensions, and you have very little left as I explained to you when we came in, only 30% was left when the NDC was there to pay debt, to service, do everything else with 30%. We got it down to 45%. And this, I don't know where this scholar get the notion that I come here against the plan. I am here explaining the plan. I haven't taken a position on the plan. I am here explaining what is the new proposal that the government has on the table.
Okay, so there's always going to be arguments of various schools of thought. Scholars at all levels, they argue on many things. So there's always going to be vacillation, discussions on it. You've highlighted, you've raised your challenge, and I was asking you about some of the potential, if we could look at some of the benefits, whether or not what is being proposed by the current administration, whether or not, while you have some concerns with it, what in your estimations, if ever, are the benefits?
Well, I said, and I will repeat, if you have a pension plan and you're paying towards it, obviously at the end of the day, you will have to benefit from it because of your money you're putting into it.
No, I'm asking what else.
Yes, no, I'm telling you that is a benefit. In any defined contribution plan, there are benefits to be derived from it. The thing is not, you have to stop thinking in this binary way. Either a good or a bad or a wrong or a right. No. You need to analyze the thing in a broader perspective, not just right and wrong, good or bad. No. I'm saying to you, people have private pension scheme that they pay towards, right, so that at the end, so if the government introduce one and workers paying towards it, obviously there will be a benefit at the end. For the workers, there is no doubt about that, right, but the workers are paying, and you compare that now with the previous one where it was non-contributory. Workers paid absolutely nothing. So for the new workers, they're saying, well, yes, we're going to get a pension that we're contributing to, but my co-worker has not contributed nothing into it, and he's going to get a gratuity and a pension as well.
Let's go to the telephone lines. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Yes, good morning. Greetings to you and to your guests. Just a little observation, really, and comment. I am happy that Mr. Joseph has reached to the stage where he can identify and, as a matter of fact, be crystally clear in his expressions to the Grenadian people what a demagogue is. In his utterances, he said, with all alacrity, in campaigning, politicians don't give the details. Pay attention to that expression. It is extremely powerful. Let's Grenadians think differently. A demagogue gives spurious, tells lies, tells lies. Irrational and emotional information for the purpose. What is the purpose? The predominant purpose is to deceive. And I'm happy that he has seen it and he has said it publicly. I will hold you to that, Mr. Joseph. Thank you very much and have a good day. Will you, sir?
Thank you very much, sir. 435-2041, that is the number on the inside. It is exactly 8 minutes onto the hour of 10 o'clock. A question I want to ask you, Shakira, we did intimate that time is in fact of the essence. This week, actually, speaking with the former trade union boss, Mr. George Mason, he made inference that the trade union movement has been infiltrated by external forces for the purpose of political expedience. Quite a stirring remark. Your thoughts on it? How much of a concern, if in fact that is, well, whether or not it's a fact or not, how much of a concern do you have regarding that statement made?
Well, I didn't hear the statement that he made, but if he said that, he's speaking from that's his opinion. I don't know if it's a fact, he's a former trade unionist, very active in the trade union movement in TUC. He may have information I don't have. Perhaps you know of the other trade. I've not been in the trade union movement for 20 years. So he's there, and perhaps he has information. So I don't know.
If in fact that is the case, how concerned
are you? I don't know it's a fact, so I don't want to comment on something that I cannot verify as a fact. If I could verify as a fact, then I'll comment on it. I'm not going to comment on just somebody's opinion or somebody making an expression And I wouldn't comment on
But I'm
it
saying,
like that.
but as a former government minister, wouldn't it concern you if, in fact, that comment has been made? Hypothetically or not, would you be concerned that comment has been made? And if, in fact, there's any truth to it, I mean, certainly, I think you would have some measure of concern that if, in fact, that is happening. That's all I'm asking.
No, I don't know if there's any truth in it, and my position is, unless I'm satisfied that there's truth in the statement they make, I would not express an opinion on it.
But you would not be concerned. It wouldn't concern you if, in fact, that there has been infiltration in the trade union movement.
I don't even understand what you mean by the infiltration, because trade union leaders you will have their own political position, and that has always been the case since this formation of trade unions. In fact, some trade unions have grown into political parties. The Grenada United Labour Party started as a trade union movement and then became a political party and won several elections.
He in fact forwarded the argument that there are those who are willing to crucify the current process for pension reform. They would attempt to destabilize it for political expedience.
But I say, he perhaps have his facts. I don't know where he get the facts from. I do not have that information. And so I'll treat it as he is expressing his own point of view. He's my good friend. When I meet him, we can discuss it.
But are you concerned that your good friend is making such an allegation?
Well, I have not heard it, so I'm not sure if you.
Well, I'm saying to you that he.
Yeah, but you're quoting him. I want to hear him say it.
You want to hear?
Yes. Let me hear the exact words, because you see, when you're trying to quote somebody, sometimes you don't come up with the same thing that they say.
Fair enough. 5 minutes on to the hour in the morning time. We're getting ready to put a wrap on this morning's conversation. Mr. Judd, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to summarize your position on this.
Yes. So, as we were saying, that the workers who do not currently entitled to a pension, we welcome any rational scheme that will benefit them, because we have tried to put in place a scheme that will benefit workers. So I do not want to leave this program with people saying that we are opposed to it. We have stated clearly the position of our party. So, if I come here in my personal capacity, I'll have a different thing to say. But because I'm not here in my personal capacity, I have explained to you the concerns of the rush, to get it done. They have greater consultation with the union representative. In that way, you get better results, when you hear from all sides, and could lead to the same outcome. What we want is to see workers benefit, at the end of the day. Because if you have a system where more people are on the pension, then less will come to government, for the safety net program, because they're getting the pension. So we like to see more people get the pension. And I think, you see, just like how I'm here, I made the presentation on the pension, and you had a lot of callers giving their views. That is what we need to go on. We need more of that. That is what we need more of, not less.
And that's where we leave that conversation for now. 3 minutes on to the hour of 10 o'clock in the morning time. I'm Joseph Cadore. I want to say thank you for being part of this morning's conversation. Until then, so long, everybody. JC loves you. Have yourself a great one.